this is Street Level Spirituality with Hangin with. This is January 1, 2020. It's not funny, it's 2020. There's a lot going on. So I just wanted to do a video here at the beginning of the year to kind of connect with everyone and kind of feel out what the energies are happening in the world. We had a big solar eclipse on Christmas. So you may have felt a shift there. I think Trump got impeached right around that time. And it's a kind of a ramp up to this big Pluto Saturn in conjunction in Capricorn happening on January 12th that I keep talking about. What I'll do is I'll give the overall kind of astrological outlook, and I think I'm going to get a little more casual this time. You know, instead of kind of giving you the forecast like you see with a lot of videos, we can kind of hang out a little bit, maybe see some stuff online, do a little research, and just talk about some different things that are going on. I do much more than just astrology and tarot. That's kind of an avenue for me to be able to connect with people. But I have other studies, maybe along the lines of like Edgar Cayce, and I've been caretaking a lot of old documents and readings from Kevin Ryerson, who's a similar trance channel to Edgar Cayce. So I just want to start kind of breaking it up a little bit, just as everyone else is probably going through a lot of changes. We have a new decade, a new year. We just had a solar eclipse, and we have this big shift coming up here. A lot of people say that, you know, it's the astrological aspect of the decade. So I don't know if they meant last decade or this decade, but it's significant enough to be something kind of substantial within a period of 10 years. So January 1, I didn't party. I didn't do anything last night. What did you guys do? You guys go out dancing or anything? I would have liked to go out dancing. I had my own, gosh, everyone's got cycles, right? I've been going through my midlife and Saturn cycles, if you guys know what that's all about. And it's been kind of intense. This particular aspect of Saturn conjunct Pluto is hitting my Jupiter in the 10th house and my Mercury in the 4th house exactly. It's squaring both of them. And I think we have, gosh, the Sun, Pluto, Saturn, and I think it's Mercury all at 22 degrees. I think Mercury might be 23 degrees in Capricorn on January 12th. So that's 4 planets just right on top of each other. And it's already intense with the Pluto-Saturn connection, so that just brings another level to it. And then if any of these, affect your chart on a personal level, if you have anything at 22 degrees in Libra or Aries or Cancer, you're going to be really feeling this. Like this is like made for you, something very personal and transformational for you. So I have it. I just found out 2 days ago. I thought it was kind of free and clear. I just found out I have my Jupiter at 22 degrees of Aries and my Mercury at 22 degrees of Libra. So my Jupiter and my Libra naturally oppose each other. So this aspect of these 4 planets in conjunction are squaring both my Jupiter in my 10th house and my Mercury in my 4th house. Mercury is obviously communication, Jupiter is expansion and opportunity. So I wouldn't be surprised if I wouldn't see a new opportunity or new direction in my career. I've been going through a lot. My business partner and I have been kind of, I should mention, this isn't what I really do normally. This is kind of what I do for my heart and soul, what I enjoy doing, and finding an outlet to express myself in a deeper way. But for my regular career, I do brand development, graphic design. But my business partner and I have been kind of drifting away from each other a little bit, and he just found out his dad's passing. So he's off doing that. Things are, really shaking up right now, and I'm sure it's shaking up for everyone. It's shaking up politically. God, there's just so much to talk about. So let's just hang out a bit, and we'll talk about it. I do plan on doing some live hangouts soon, as soon as I get it figured out. Right now, I'm still recording this. I'm experimenting, doing something new this time. I'm running the audio through video capture on my computer screen here, so we can see what's going on. I thought we could just kind of carouse and look over some stuff together. But the audio is running through there, and the audio data rate on my camera is 100 kilohertz or something. I don't know how you pronounce that, but and some record at 41, and so sometimes you have audio sync issues. So hopefully there's not audio sync issues. And then the other issue I've seen also is when I'm capturing in QuickTime on my laptop as a screen capture, sometimes I have long delays. And I'm not sure what that is. If I just need to update my operating system. I've got a good SSD in here. It's a really high-end Mac. But anyway, so we'll see. We'll see if this works. So if for any reason everything's kind of funky, at least you can hear my voice and we can still talk through this stuff. I've been really trying to kind of create more of a harmonious environment for myself. So growing up, my mom used to burn Nag Champa incense. So I thought, if you ever see me looking up like this, I have a screen up here. Just seeing if I'm on camera. So let's light some Nag Champa here for the new year. Hope you guys are doing good. All this astrological stuff, all these life changes, all these things that kind of shake us up and push us in new directions are just helping us kind of get to our highest expression. And it's usually just the honest part of yourself, and society doesn't always really make much room for you to be yourself out there, because we have to kind of put a mask on and go work, or put a mask on to try to connect in some level with somewhat of a superficial society. So part of my mission is to kind of really support natural being. I'm not a crazy hippie spiritualist. I used to be more like that, I guess. I'm very pragmatic. I have Saturn right in my ascendant. I grew up in communes, in spiritual gatherings and environments. And I've also lived in mainstream reality. Corporations, Los Angeles, that kind of crap. So I've kind of really exited everything, all of it, and I feel like there's a path that's if you really, really want to discover that inner truth, you got to shed a lot of bullshit, and I think that there's a path that and information available that is more of a spiritual science, I guess you could say. Anyway, so I like to share more and more with you guys, and kind of the other kind of things I do that are a little more low key and I don't really talk about much. But anyway, we'll get into all that stuff. Anyway, Happy New Year. Nag Champa. Oh yeah, and then I do other video work too. I was working on a music video, so I have this green screen behind me. Isn't that fun? I have no idea what I'm going to put there yet, but there it is. You can see it now. So anyway, that'd be fun to put some different stuff back there. Just for fun. Yay. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me. Happy New Year. But we'll do this similar format in the sense that we'll just talk about some stuff, some astrology, stuff like that. And then once we're complete with that general overview, we'll get into each one of your signs and give you your own personal readings for the month. So, yay, I'm going to go put this in my orchid plant. So, how you guys feeling? A little coffee here. So I thought maybe what we could do is we could go online and maybe just read a little bit about what different websites and stuff are saying about this conjunction. Hang out together. Actually, before we do that, let's pull an Edgar Casey card. My friend Heather got these cards for me. I think she's one of my 8 subscribers. I don't know how many I have. Anyway, it'd be great to grow that, but for now I'll just use this as an opportunity to express myself. Thanks for hanging out with me. I started this because I kept being pushed by some of my teachers to do more tarot as a tool to kind of get in touch with my intuition and things like that. And then this hanging out format, I kind of liked it because there was a lot of times I was laying in bed, and it's nice to listen to some meditation music or whatever. I like computers too. I like build Hackintoshes and kind of just trying to learn about computers, which is kind of fun. It gives me a hobby to work on. That's kind of meditative. And then, but I started trying to find videos that were like longer than 20 minutes to listen to, because I'd lay down in bed and sometimes I just want to hear someone talk or something, and hopefully something interesting. So I thought maybe we could just kind of create an opportunity to hang out together and just kind of explore astrology and tarot, and maybe even some ancient writings or contemporary writings of like modern psychics that I feel are legit and creating really cool stuff, and just talking about life in general. So anyway, to start this off, let's pull an Edgar Cayce card. Edgar Cayce, if you're not sure who he is, here, let's look him up while we do this. You try out this new screen thing. So I got this Pluto, Saturn, Capricorn thing here. Let's go to Edgar Cayce. There's a really great book called There's a River about his life. Not now. Okay, who is Edgar Cayce? Edgar Cayce, he was born in 1877, died in 1945, has been called the sleeping prophet, the father of holistic medicine, and the most documented psychic of the 20th century. For more than 40 years of his life, Edgar Cayce gave psychic readings to thousands of seekers while in an unconscious state, diagnosing illnesses and revealing lives lived in the past and prophecies yet to come. But who was he? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he was born in Kentucky, wasn't all that educated, ended up having like a throat problem. They couldn't figure out how he could get him to speak again. So as a last ditch effort, they had him go to a hypnotist. And the hypnotist, through suggestion, was able to put him into sleep. And he was talking perfectly fine while he was under kind of asleep in hypnotic suggestion. And so they knew that it wasn't physical, it was something else. So anyway, through that process, he ended up kind of speaking, and some kind of higher conscious started speaking through him. So anyway, long story short, you can look it up yourself, but anyway, he's a really interesting fellow, really dedicated to helping people's lives, and just did thousands of readings for free for children, for health issues, and then later on, there started to become more information coming through about lost civilizations like Atlantis or Lemuria. Angels even talk about extraterrestrial type stuff, and I'm not really into sensationalizing those past aspects of our history. I do think they're important to look at, but I think that me personally, I like to focus on just what we can do to create a better reality for ourselves individually within our own unique experiences. Not really focusing on so much on stuff outside of us. Use those tools to help us become more in tune and aware of who we are as people. And every day we have our experience. Right now I'm having my experience, and I'm doing the best I can to create something that's authentic and that's me, so I can relax into the moment and feel a sense of peace and create harmony in my life. And that comes from years of kind of living in high stress environments with corporate jobs or kind of mainstream life. I did the whole thing with the wife and the kids and the car and the house and the bills and the shopping and the bills and the shopping and the bills and the bills and bills. And that astrology always corrects you. So I had my correction in like 2006, and it just put me on a whole nother path. So I've just been exploring kind of how to really get in touch with that inner experience, and would like to be an advocate of that. I'm not really into gurus. I'm not into really even mainstream spirituality. or religion, but I do, look to Judeo-Christian teachings in a lot of what I do. I find it really interesting in Tibetan Buddhism. I tend to find both of those have truths in them that are really powerful that I can relate to. But you can find your truths anywhere. Whatever works for your personal experience. When we're being honest and we're not being fake about who we are, then we start to get in tune with the true spiritual nature. And it's not a fashion statement. It's not something that we do to appear like we're conscious or good out there in the world, but we come to rectify our own soul's experience here on this planet and come face to face with our shadow side and fears and all that stuff. Yay. So anyway, speaking of which, we've got this really intense aspect coming up. But anyway, so by Edgar Cayce, check it out. He's super awesome. They always say follow the money if you want to see where things are going. Well, he never really asked for any money. And I think that alone really set him apart from a lot of people. And and I guess he was a little self-effacing also. I mean, he just gave and gave and gave, and these readings were a lot of energy for him, and he just continued to do them as his health degraded as he got older. And I think he just really had a deep sense of love for humanity and wanting to raise people out of the suffering that they're experiencing here on this planet. So anyway, we're about to get to the card. I'm gonna drink some tea here. It's a beautiful day. I have right now it's 4:11 p.m. in California, and I've got this beautiful light coming in. I mean, I've got studio lights here, but right behind the camera is a glass door. I have this really beautiful light coming in, filtering through the tree. It's really nice. I really would like to get some cameras and stuff that I could kind of do a multi-camera thing. I think there's like these video input devices with switchers. Can't afford it right now, but it'd be nice. Oh, this is so good. Have you guys ever had Good Earth tea, the original spicy version? My dad used to take us to the actual Good Earth restaurant back in the 80s. And they used to drink this tea. Anyway, I hope the audio is syncing. I haven't had much luck with it, so apologize if it's not. Just shuffled some cards here. Let's go ahead and let's just say the number 3. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Okay. All right, let's see. This is our card for the month, for the beginning of the year. It is right here. Oh, I guess it's not in focus if I go close. But anyway, there it is. And just looking at my recording settings here. Trying to get an idea of how big these files are. Okay, so your message, or our message, is for the beginning of this year and through this Pluto Saturn aspect is: thoughts are deeds. Do not be other than optimistic. That's from Edgar Cayce reading 793-2, in case you're looking that up. Thoughts are deeds. Do not be other than optimistic. Well, that's wonderful. So, thoughts are deeds. Be optimistic. So let's see. What can we focus on being optimistic about? So I'm going to be optimistic about my career. When I was younger, my parents split up, and my dad was kind of a musician, kind of rock star lifestyle, I guess you could say. And it was I was raised by my mom, so it was kind of tough, and I didn't have much. And when you live in the city and you don't have much, you kind of live off street cred. You live off what you can, skills. It would, how people danced or skateboarded or whatever that they did, whatever their expression was. It was kind of how you got your street cred, how skilled you were at doing something. And so I dropped out of high school Just I didn't have any guidance. I was in San Diego High School downtown. This is when there was a lot of drive-by shootings were first starting and all that. And it was just a kind of a nasty environment. And I ended up, I had a old Vespa motor scooter at the time that I was driving without a license, 16 I think. And I just got up out of school and I left because, nothing was happening. The kids were throwing stuff everywhere, smoking weed in the back, and I just knew that there was something else for me, and I didn't know what it was. But long story short is, I ended up kind of fibbing my way into a job and was doing some, work on some TV stuff, and but mostly like early web development stuff, and that led into brand development, which is a whole philosophy of identity as a business, and it was interesting because over time that really ended up tying into my own spiritual work, because getting to know who you are is there's certain aspects of who we are as people and businesses that define our identity. It's who you are, what you do, how you do it, what you do that's unique, your values, and how that applied to our kind of personal spiritual aspect of who we are as people, and figuring out what our identity is was really powerful. So the branding and the spiritual work kind of started tying in together, and I developed this philosophy around it. But anyway, long story short is, doing a lot of like, I don't know, my stone focus back here. Gotta lean back. Probably not, but I'm just gonna chill back for a little bit. So anyway, I ended up doing a lot of like, I got into ad agencies and was a creative director. So we were doing work, and, a lot of small jobs, but I got fortunate and I did some big work for Sony PlayStation and some work for Nike, and MGM, Universal, some other companies. But I never really felt like it was really who I was. The work was always just to make money and not very creative and extremely stressful. It paid good, but it was extremely stressful, And little by little, things have just slowed down. And as I've made my piece a priority, not really knowing what to do, where to go next. So, these powerful aspects, these astrological aspects that have come up already at the end of the year and the beginning of this year, have really pushed me out into reevaluating my career and what I'm doing. And, a part of my spiritual growth in the last 5 years, I went through some big awakenings. I saw my own soul. I had the veil pulled back and I saw my own soul wandering the earth. And being a little confused, and that was alarming. And so I've kind of just shed everything, slowly year after year, just shed everything, and just getting to a point of a lot of quiet and peace, but not knowing where I'm going with my career, and really just not wanting to be around that kind of energy anymore of the intense, heavy work stuff. And so anyway, I'm just focusing on some creative projects and things that mean something to me. I'm just hoping that something will work out eventually, hopefully. If you guys need a reading, give me a call. I could definitely use the gig. But anyway, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I have this weird feeling that everything's going to work out. And so I'm going to be optimistic, just like our card said. And it's weird. I've got a couple leads on big projects regarding like music and stuff like that, which is a big part of my life also, growing up in a music family and stuff. So who knows, maybe I'm going more towards the spiritual work or the music, or music and spiritual work together or something like that. I don't know what's going on, but something seems to be happening. How's it look? Am I out of focus? I don't know. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. How's my audio? I don't know. So, hanging with. That tea's good. I like it. So, be optimistic. We're gonna be optimistic, and we're gonna look at, my friend, for instance, my business partner's, his dad's passing as we speak right now. And gosh, when these kinds of aspects affect you on that level, it's hard to be optimistic, and we can't sugarcoat or say that things are just going to be good, but we can look and hopefully see a greater truth or a greater purpose within that. So no matter what you're going through, even if it's a loss or something really difficult for you, use it as an opportunity to cleanse yourself of the aspects of those feelings, thoughts, and emotions that are reactive, and give yourself a chance to be in a state of harmony as you go through these lessons and be more responsive to them. So, okay, so we talked a little Edgar Casey. We did a card. Oh my gosh. Things have been crazy. I've got 2 kids that live with their mom. And I've been spending as much time with them as I can, and I figure if they're sick of me, that's good. But my spiritual world, they're just teenagers now, and I haven't really ever really shared with them my spiritual side. Those spiritual views. Their mother tends to be a lot different than that. So it's been kind of interesting, just slowly introducing who I am to them on a bigger level. But as these they're going through some challenges there at their house, and it's like, oh man, I guess trying to share that optimism with people who aren't spiritual, right? Or trying to share the spiritual growth in all these things, and to remain optimistic, or our spiritual nature in general to remain optimistic. I mean, when we recognize that we're spirits and that we live life to life to life, and that this all amounts to something, it's a lot easier to be optimistic. We're not looking at life as just this pointless process that we just die and it doesn't mean anything, So anyway, just going through that with my kids, that whole process. All right, let's talk about this Capricorn, Saturn Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. I was looking online, kind of just seeing what people were saying about it, but the basic idea is that the sign of Capricorn is, all about really investing in yourself, success, business, government, old structures, old ways of doing things. It's good that we have bureaucracy in these old structures because, innovation's great, but also innovation can be untried and tested. So it's good to have these kind of legacy aspects of who we are or society because they're reliable. They're not always perfect. There can be sluggishness in the process. There can be a lack of innovation. There can be really old ways of doing things that are antiquated. But there's value in that. So it's important to nothing's ever bad or evil or wrong. It's just seeing the place of things and what's appropriate. Now on the other side of that, you've got Pluto coming along and connecting with Saturn in Capricorn. Well, Saturn is naturally in home in Capricorn, and Saturn is the same thing. It's the father, it's structure, rigidity, repetition, hard work, really establishing yourself, and stern truth, undeniable truths, unflexible truths. So it's very much the government, it's very much institutions, and so you got Pluto. Pluto's the planet of death, rebirth, and transformation. It kills you, it breaks you into a million pieces, and then it slowly puts you back together in a new formation that's more authentic to who you really are, and that's more true. So even though it may come in and annihilate you, and yes, it takes a long time to come to terms with it and rebuild who you are, it always puts you back together. That's the cool thing about Pluto. So, it might annihilate you. It might change things in ways that you can never go back to the way things were before. But we, I guess, learn a lot more about who we are in the process, right? So, and hopefully just to be more honest about who we are in our daily affairs. So anyway, so that's the general gist of it. I wouldn't be surprised to see if, I read in one of these articles that in the chart for the country of China, this is aspecting Jupiter, so which is expansion. So potentially we could see China attempting to expand its borders. We could think of that in small or really extreme ways. I don't want to get too negative about stuff. Let's stay optimistic. But anyway, so China's influence, the dragon in the Book of Revelation, its presence is expanding. Whatever it is energy or something of that sort is expanding, but also transforming, which is cool because Pluto, who knows, maybe there's a different way of thinking or functioning as a country that's a new spirit, something like that. Who knows? We will find out soon enough. And all these things will be affected throughout the whole year. 2020 is the year. We've got the elections coming up in November. This is the year where government, the power of the people, Pluto is also about power, giving away our power, and reclaiming our power. And that's a really important thing. Oftentimes people give away their powers in return for security or a sense of security or a false sense of security, but there's always a price for that. So keep that in mind, that being autonomous, independent beings can feel lonely sometimes. But when you're seeking your truth, that's okay. You need that alone time to really get in touch with your truth and get strong in your truth. But there's nothing parasitic sucking on you when you really begin to think for yourself and start to function as an independent being out there in the world. We have way too much reliance on government and addictions and all sorts of things that really keep us from being who we are. Behind all that crap is a spiritual being that is pure and clear and ready to really co-create here on this planet. So let's see. I'm not really sure what article, but we can kind of carouse these. Protect and survive. Dark Star is intense, but let's check it out. Let's check out some intensity here. Yeah, so here's some power stuff here. This is what Dark Star says. Saturn conjunction Pluto 2020, protect and survive. Saturn conjunct Pluto will be exact at 22 degrees Capricorn on January 12, 2020. In 2020, there will be a buildup of a grand stellium, including Jupiter and Ceres also. I didn't know that. I will go through each of these conjunctions in separate posts, but we shall kick off with the one that will probably generate the most fear. Dark Star is always kind of... I guess if we're supposed to remain optimistic, this might not be the best page to read, but I do appreciate the shadow side of reality. It's important to look at. If you want to make movement in your life, looking right into the shadow is one of the quickest ways to do it. Saturn rules fear, and Pluto is the taboo and unseen. Saturn-Pluto is the deep state, the hidden hand, and death cults. These are both planets of endings, but it is both a death and a resurrection aspect that contains many paradoxes. With this conjunction in Capricorn, the most obvious meaning is the collapse of structures and having to rebuild again from the foundations up. No more papering up. Papering? No more papering over the cracks. So, and these are the dates here: April 6, 2019, May 28, 2019, December, February, and then September and October will have another influence of this. Not exact, but during the retrograde. So, I guess what I'm saying here is that these aspects they've been around for a while, and it's not like in the next couple of weeks something's going to happen totally unexpected. It could be unexpected, but it's not going to be outside of themes that we haven't already seen. We already see shakeups and people rising and secrets coming out within government and all that stuff. So it's no surprise there. And within our personal lives, depending on how this is aspecting us, what we're already feeling is we just might see more action around it. So for me, again, it's 10th house, 4th house, that's home and career. and my career has been shaking up for a while and transforming, so it's not like a big surprise. But anyway, let's see what else we got. Oh, this was something else that was interesting too. For people who grew up in the 80s, like I did, I saw this in another article. They were talking about that TV miniseries. I think it was called The Day After, and I think it was So that happened in 82, 83, which was the last time this aspect had happened. So you could start seeing some themes around it, and also some relief or some sort of revisiting of that time period of your life. So I was 8 years old in that 7, 8 years old during that time, and they had this miniseries on TV called The Day After, and there was a lot of nuclear tensions with Russia at the time, and so there was this miniseries, and at the very beginning of it, they had this image of these kids playing in this nuclear, or I forget what it was exactly, but it was a nuclear bomb going off, and it scared the shit out of me as a kid. I mean, when you're 8 years old, that looks real, and back then there was 4 main TV stations or whatever, so everyone was watching this. So you have millions of kids and people just really traumatized by this image of a nuclear bomb annihilating, their country. And it was a palpable state of fear during that time, and it's especially abusive towards children because it appears to be so real that kids get into this state of trauma and start emitting this fear out there in their lives and everything that they're doing. And so I think that, to me, that's a part of what this time is right now for us. We see that in social media. Everyone's on their phone just clicking through stuff. And, I think most people, or anyone who's even remotely conscious about what's happening in their lives and observant, can recognize that there's a lot of toxicity and garbage, in their feeds and their media and these articles. And it's just, there's a lot of extreme division right now. So people are just angry. People don't know how to debate things. People don't know how to talk about things. People aren't looking for common ground. It's very one-sided. But let's remain optimistic. Let's look at oh god, how do I go off this tangent? But anyway, so what I also do is I am in the process of archiving a lot of channelings from the channel Kevin Ryerson. He's a lesser known channel, but also semi-known, depending. He was in Shirley MacLaine's Out on a Limb series in the 80s, another miniseries on TV, funny enough, and was part of her spiritual development, and he was my godfather. So, a lot of people from that age group of that time period, they were doing a lot of readings in the 70s and the 80s in these groups. A lot of those people are getting older, and so I'm slowly receiving a lot of these old recordings and tapes, and I just got some papers, some transcribed papers from a lady that was a big part of those groups, and I started to take those papers from the 80s and transcribe them. I just finished the first PDF. Here it is right here. I think it's right here. Yeah, so I just transcribed this. This is a 20-page document. But there was something in here. Let's see. I mean, it's just really interesting content. That's what it was. So, it's basically when we get in a state of conflict, of tension, of differences, of polarization, we feel like there's something to fight for. And when you're in that constant state of fear, something bad's gonna happen, getting really stuck in the media, getting stuck in these stories, identifying with one side of the extreme, there's this energy charge going out into the world. And a big part of the consciousness that's growing right now is learning that things are one-to-one, that there's not, you can't fight for peace or you can't wait for something. It's, you have the moment right now to choose where you're functioning from as a person. And that's your own sacred inner reality. It's your own temple. It's your own, whatever you want to call it. This experience you're having, I don't care if you're a trucker who doesn't believe in anything spiritual, if you're religious, I don't care who you are, what you believe in, atheist. We all have this moment right now that we have to sort out and do something with. And for some people, they feel that outer circumstances are the reason why they can't rectify that or find that balance or find that way to really take control of that moment. Now, we're in a physical body here, and we can't necessarily control the state of that physical body at any given minute. Now, we can take care of ourselves, we can sleep, we can drink water, we can do the things that we need to do to feel our best. But it's, to really understand what's all happening here, we have to see it within a multidimensional concept. And I don't mean multidimensional in some spiritual way. I mean that we're having many experiences simultaneously. So as I sit here right now, and as you sit where you're at right now, you're having a physical experience, and we can direct our consciousness to be aware of that physical experience. I can touch my hand here, I can touch my arm, I can feel my breathing, I can feel where I'm sitting, I can feel the air around me. And then instantly, with your consciousness, you can go right into your mental space, and you can go into your mind, and you can think about things, and you can do things there. So that's a second dimension that we're exploring. Then there's the spiritual dimension, and the way I would describe that is there's this part of you that kind of longs for something. It's not the part of you that longs for something physically, like a desire to eat something or sex or get out and do something physical. It's this part of you that is wanting to express a sense of purpose upon this planet. And it's easy, we can distract ourselves, we can watch Netflix, we can play video games, we can hang out with friends, we can go drinking, we can do all those things. But it's kind of like that thing still lingers there. It's that part of you that wants to fulfill some sort, or for, at least in my case, it might be different for different people, but in my case, it was to articulate and bring something from my inside out into the world. And I bypassed that for so many years that now I'm at a place where I kind of don't have a choice. Astrologically, I've been through my midlife planets, I'm going through all these changes, and so I've had to respond, because what happens is the universe will just kind of shut everything down around you, and the things that used to function for you don't function anymore. And when that happens, people can get depressed, they can think life's over, they can think all these things, depending on the degree of it and what they're experiencing. Now, what's important is instead to start listening to that dimension of your being. Again, this isn't some wacky spiritual thing. These are experiences that everyone's actually having. And to be able to focus and identify different aspects of it in its totality, we can start to see what we're truly working with and get out of a fantasy mode and into a real practical present life on this planet. And that, to me, is spirituality, because we're responding to a deep need that we have inside of ourselves. It's not that we're reading about crazy, weird things and forcing positivity and all this crappy stuff we see out there, or some yoga fashion show with goats or whatever crap is out there. So anyway, so it's getting real, it's getting present. But anyway, so I'm just talking about these different dimensions of who we are, and coming to terms with that. But anyway, so in this in regards to negativity, going back to the day after, going back to social media these days and things like that, is we have those different dimensions of our experience, and that's the state of those dimensions, the state of our mental state, the state of our physical state, the state of our spiritual state. And the state of our spiritual state, to me, is always pure and perfect. It's this thing that never leaves you. It's great. It's always there for you. But the state of our spiritual state is more so if we're responding to it or not, if we're acknowledging what these deep needs are to express ourselves or what we're trying to attempt to accomplish being here on the planet. Now, maybe for some people, it's not really accomplishing anything practical. Maybe it's that they're learning to relax. Maybe they are learning to get back in touch with nature and allowing themselves to just be alone and make peace with that, you know. So for who you are and what you're doing, you know, it's all unique, but I can speak in generalizations in the sense that there are common themes in our society these days, and for some reason, because we don't have to connect with each other to connect, and that there is so much extreme division between thinking and people wanting to just be left alone. There's a lot of isolation and a lot of negative attention. So I think that part of this, to go all the way around, and I know I'm talking about a lot of stuff here, but to come all the way back with all of it, is that I think that we're rectifying and coming to some sense of resolution that these external forces, if we allow our consciousness, our mental consciousness, our body consciousness to get worked up, our spiritual consciousness to get blocked, that we enter a state of consciousness that is external to us. It's being fed to us by external forces. So we have, you know, videos on Facebook, YouTube, you know, whatever these videos are, feeding us fears, feeding us this crap. And it's like junk food, you know, and we just kind of use it because it gets us by and it entertains us and it stimulates our biochemical functions and gives us a sense of that we're doing something. Now, other people go out of the way and they create turmoil consciously to avoid all that stuff and blah, blah, blah. I can't get into all that. But I do think that there's going to be a certain aspect of this is coming to terms with that kind of trauma that we get exposed to in regards to media. Because that's what happened in 82, 83. We were very traumatized by the nuclear scares, by these TV shows and things like that. So there's such a parallel with what's going on today with media that I think that, you know, we could see a return of that kind of energy. But I also think that it's a opportunity for people in my age group, and then just in general for people to become aware and kind of take their power back. We have Pluto there. Pluto wants to take its power back. So we're taking our power back from media. We're taking our power back from being fed this bullshit. All we have is this moment. And if you can go in and seize the space of your mind, if you can come into your body and seize the space of your body, and if you can move into awareness of what your spiritual calling is, and unblock that door unblock these distractions that's keeping us from really focusing on spending our time, you know, developing that aspect of who we are, then we can start to really liberate ourselves from all these forces. So anyway, that's what it is for me. If it's something, you know, depending on where your chart's at, look it up. You have to know what your ascendant is, your rising sign. But if there's anything at 22 degrees Libra, 22 degrees Aries, or 22 degrees Cancer, look at your chart or anything close to that, and then you'll see how this aspect's going to affect you personally. So I have a Cancer ascendant. This is opposite Cancer in Capricorn. So that's the opposite of the first house is this, well, 7th house. So for me, the first house is your relationship with yourself. The 7th house, which is opposite, all the houses represent the opposite of each other. So the 7th house represents my house of relationships. So this is very much about how I relate to people. And since it aspects business and home, it's going to be around issues of business and home. I think especially business, what I'm looking at here. So anyway, yeah, so it should just be a really interesting year. And I think I'll go into each of your guys' readings now, but I do want to remain optimistic, but I do want to really reiterate the importance of claiming your space. Like, no fucking joke, I ain't fucking around anymore. You know, all this crap out here, blah, 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 blah. You know, people get into it, you know, and then they're just regurgitating, you know, sound bites they hear online, and it divides people. So now it's a time to turn off the shit, turn off the garbage, and people who defend that stuff, they're mentally ill. These are people that have problems and they can't face themselves. They can't deal with their own emotions. And as we get more real, as things quiet down, as we reclaim our space, yeah, we do have to feel those emotions. Yeah, we do have to feel the subconscious stuff. Things may not be as good as you thought they were. Things might not feel as good as you thought they were when you start to get in touch with your body. When you start to see how society functions, it's fucking disgusting. And it makes you humble. It makes you really, really humble. And maybe not always feel optimistic because there's so much work to do. Once you get out of that smoke and those clouds and you really start to think for yourself, and this isn't for everybody. So for some people, astrology and tarot is about, what am I going to get? Where's my next boyfriend or girlfriend? What's that next job that's going to be better and better and better? And that's not the work that I'm here to do. The work I'm here to do is to focus on regulating your shit and getting your soul lined up and straight while you're functioning on this planet and reclaiming your inner reality and your inner space. So if you're into that, subscribe, please, and hang out with me because there's a lot more to come. I've got some really, really great material. So anyway, let's stay optimistic. Yeah, things suck. Things are challenging. But we have to have the tools and the resources within ourselves and to demonstrate that for other people as they start to shed their falsity also. So anyway, keep up the good work. If you guys need anything at all, if you have any questions, I do tarot readings. I can give you kind of an astrological reading, chart, something intuitive. I can do something over the phone for an hour. We can chit chat or something like that. I'll put a link in the description of how to contact me. And I'll go ahead and get into your own personal readings right now. Happy New Year. Word up, Aquarius. This is your tarot reading for January 2020 with Street Level Spirituality. Thanks for hanging with me. Hanging with Aquarius. Everyone knows it's a big month. Pluto-Saturn conjunction. People are going to go through some level. Everyone's going through a level of transformation. We'll see something. I know we're going to see something out there in the world because this has a lot to do with government and politics. We already talked about that. But for you, Aquarius, you are the people person. You want everything to work out. You might be feeling a little bit of anxiety because you like it when the people get along. Everything gets transformed in some manner. Now, what I do is I pull cards, like primary cards for each sign, and it gives me an opportunity to really, really meditate on the energy ahead of time. So what I pulled for you was the Page of Swords in reverse as a primary card. So I'm just going to pull that out. You put it on the table. Oops, I got an extra card from another deck from the last reading. Page of Swords. Okay, so we'll see what's influencing it. But this is going to be the area of big transformation for you because of Pluto this month. We're looking at a lot of transformation. We're looking at old patterns. In your case, Page of Swords means that you're reserving the truth. That you're not necessarily... you're kind of either hiding the truth, you don't feel comfortable about speaking your truth, you're not sure. I knew this was going to be way back here. There's something about you not speaking up, not speaking your truth, not living your truth. I think that this is an area in your chart because of all the astrological stuff that's going on, is that maybe you've been doing this for a long time. Maybe it's been a pattern, a structure for you that's worked, it's functioned, and now it's not working anymore. And you're also becoming empowered. You're starting to see that, wow, I can do this. I can speak my truth and not hurt people's feelings. I can speak my truth and have good boundaries. I can speak my truth, and if I do it kindly and skillfully, not only is it the best for everyone involved, but I actually earn people's respect, and people learn to respect me because I'm honest about how I'm feeling and what I'm seeing and what I'm doing. So, I think I'm seeing all the readings this month as, what are we going to overcome? Look at that. I knew that. I was like, it was the very last card on the top of the deck. Can you believe that? So I shuffled this deck. I had already pulled your card earlier today. I shuffled this entire deck. And then I go to pull your card, and I start at the bottom, start going through. I went through every single card, and that means the card at the top of the deck was the card I already chose for you. So I'll take that as a really strong statement that this is your lesson for transformation this month. Wow, that was actually a little funny, a little strange. It was like a magic trick. I used to do magic. I love magic tricks. But I started getting too complicated and too serious about it, and then I couldn't master this one trick, and it took me a year, and I still couldn't master it, so I just gave up. Anyway, life has different things. So let's look at all your cards. So let's see what's influencing this. There's something about home, joy. It's like you feel maybe that joy's not going to be there, or you're not going to be able, the people's responses to you if you speak your truth will keep you from having that joy you want, or family you want, or love that you want. That people won't love you, that you won't be part of a family or included, or that part of that communal warmth if you're super honest about your truth. Or this could be just one particular thing that you're wanting to share. Now, in the angelic realms, your message from spirit is patience. So, to really temper this skill of telling the truth, meaning I think the message I'm getting here is that don't go blurt it out. Don't just be like, oh, I got to tell the truth. So you go tell someone that you think they're ugly as sin. It's having tact, patience, and learning this skill. So pick something small. Pick something small that you can, that maybe that might be a little uncomfortable, and keep it in. I've always found this when it comes to communication is that when you have to communicate something, sometimes you don't always say it outright. Sometimes you listen, and there's if you keep it in mind and you almost put it out to the universe that it's something you'd like to address, you just hang out with the person, hang out in the situation, and look for windows of opportunity, because I find more times than not they open up out of nowhere. They start talking about something, or you're talking about something, and all of a sudden the opportunity comes up to bring something up in a really natural manner and gently and honest, and it's good. So anyway, so you've got the in the recent past, we've got the Two of Pentacles, upcoming future, Ace of Swords. That's a sign that you're able to master this. Ace of Swords is the master of the mind, the master of communication. So you're fully empowered. Your attitude about this is the King of Pentacles in reverse. So there's something that feels a little bit out of control. Your environment is really chaotic. You're kind of almost frozen in sorrow that something's not going to work out the way you want it. All right, so let's see here. Let's just tune into your cards here. I'm getting the sense here that there's a need for education. I'm getting a sense that there's a need for education in the manner that most of us growing up, it's not like your parents usually come up to you and really articulate, or you go to school and they really articulate to you how to communicate effectively, right? There's this, well, you're either nice or you're mean. You're good or you're bad. So it's, sometimes we can get stuck in this area where we just have to constantly smile and be nice and not really understand how to go about communicating in difficult situations with compassion. So, and again, this is not always with somebody else. This can be with yourself. This can be you ignoring your own personal truth within yourself. So putting yourself in situations that aren't really you, not listening when you have that hunch feeling about something, And the message here for either one, whether it's inside of you or externally in relationship outside of you, is to be patient with the situation. Now, when it comes to communication, this is from some reading I've done, is that typically the typical American communication style, or what we've seen for a number of years now, and I think the author explained that it came from some particular religious kind of mindset in the 1500s, or some particular monk. Anyway, it was really punitive, right? So it's this idea that we're all generally bad, and there's something to kind of fight for. So people say what they want or how they feel, and the other person does, and we're not really getting anywhere. And it's evaluative in the sense that we say you're this or you're that. And what really transformed me, because nobody ever taught me this stuff either, was this idea that you speak from your feelings instead of evaluations. So, and I think, God, was Marty Rosenberg or something like that? I can't remember his name. Rosenthal? Gosh. Anyway, you guys probably know what I'm talking about. The book is called Nonviolent Communication. That's what it is. Read it. Order it right now. It's the best book. It'll change your life. You can learn to diffuse like all sorts of situations. So the idea is that instead of evaluative, we speak from our feelings, and we request things of people. And to really hold this idea that we don't owe anyone anything and nobody owes us anything really frees us up to earn relationships and to not feel pressure from others. So by kind of claiming that independence. All relationships are earned. If you want a relationship, you need to earn it and they need to earn it. So as you learn the skills to earn it, you'll start seeing that people are respecting you in the same manner. So anyway, the idea though is really simple, is that you request to communicate. You speak from your feelings. I feel sad when, not you are an asshole or you did something wrong. It's I feel this way when this occurs. And then that's a way of you expressing how you feel. Now, anyone but a complete narcissist or sociopath would listen to your feelings. So if someone's not willing to listen to your feelings, then you need to remove them from your life immediately. And I'm not even saying that softly. That's the most dangerous type of situation you can possibly be in. So if somebody's willing to listen to your feelings, then you have the opportunity to have a relationship. You say, this is how I feel. I feel sad when this, I feel happy when, and then that's a great start. And that's not evaluative, so no one has any reason to be defensive. But then it opens up an opportunity for you to make a request of the situation. I feel sad when you turn off the lights because I'm trying to write. Would it be possible for us to have some light in here, and so I can write, and then maybe you can follow up with, what do you need in this situation? So it's a matter of bargaining, expressing your feelings, and then bargaining or making requests. Now, not everyone has to honor your request, and we want to make our request considerate. We want to be reasonable. But anyway, so that's kind of a way of developing skill, and you're getting the spiritual message of temperance and patience. And I'm also seeing this kind of sense of, this feeling of despair that you need to overcome. Eleanor Roosevelt said once, "We must do what we cannot do." And I'm feeling this kind of frozen in sorrow. If I tell the truth, I'm going to lose what I really love and want. And the best thing to do would be go into that and start exploring, and just kind of be cocky about it. Go in and find the courage to just be like, hey, you know what? Maybe it's not going to work out the way I want, man. I'm okay with it, And anyway, so I don't know really what to say much more than that, but it really does seem that, you have the mental strength to do this. Don't get lost in the sorrow. Reality is one-to-one. I already said this before, and I'll keep saying it again. How you feel is how you feel. You create that, okay? So if you're focusing on sorrow, if you're focusing on this or that, that's going to just rob your energy and steal your attention. You don't need to focus on that. Stay focused on being active in finding positive solutions, responding to situations in effective manners, and not get lost in all that noise of things. So in your situation, find the courage to speak your truth. I know it's really difficult, but be willing to lose what you love. And I think that that will start, moving you in the right direction. All right. All right, Aquarius. Happy New Year. And I hope you have a good January despite the challenges. But these are transformative times. They don't last forever. Take care of yourself. Drink a lot of water. Rest. And you'll get right through this with a little courage. All right. Take care.